As you know, many great things have come from Italy to Scotland. But many good Glasgow things have gone to Italy as well. And that's why we're off to Milan to see Gerry Tayor. For centuries now, there's been a tradition of bringing craftsmen and designers from all over Europe to work here in Milan. They've all been here. Giovanni Bellini, Leonardo da Vinci. And it's a tradition that continues to this day in the modern day design studios of the likes of Ettore Sottsass. Gerry Tayor, after studying for 4 years at the Glasgow School of Art, followed by 3 years at the Royal College of Art, realised the dream of most British design students. He landed a job in Milan, design capital of the world, working for the most avant-garde design group, Memphis, who specialise in a line of outrageous bric-a-brac which annually upsets the furniture establishment. It's a long way from his humble beginnings in a Bellshill prefab.
An idea behind lots of the Memphis design is to take cliched materials that have an image of emphasising what is bad and what is cheap and what is used in cheap fish and chip shops, cheap cafes, and reversing those. And it's quite ironic that lots of the pieces about us cost maybe £1,500 to £1,000, and yet they are only chipboard with Formica on top. For me, that's quite interesting. It's quite a nice irony that you can change what people perceive as being a cheap material and making it into, because in a sense that's what design is about. It's about reorganising elements into a new and interesting way. I think it's very important that I am an industrial designer. I'm not an artist and I'm not a craftsman. I'm not interested in filing it or bending the metal, because there are craftsmen who do that much, much better than I can. And my concern is to design the image and have the image as perfect at the end of that system as possible. It's perfect, Renzo. It's really, really beautiful. It's exactly as the drawing, as the model.
È perfetto, Renzo, proprio come il modellino, come lo volevo.
E sono molto contento per te. Il colore è perfetto anche per me.
Sono contento per te.
Can you ask Renzo if there were any big problems with the making?
C'è stato qualche problema nel farlo o tutto è andato bene?
No, direi che esistono dei problemi quando fai un mobile che non hai mai fatto prima. I problemi normali di una produzione non di serie. Ma per il resto sono dei piani.
Design in Milan is like football. It's like football in Glasgow. It's like Glasgow. It's like Celtic and Rangers and Partick Thistle. It's as keen, and the rivalry is as friendly or as bitter as it can be in a football game. Now I'm playing with Sottsass, and there's no way that I could play for instance, Vico Magistretti. It's not possible. It's not possible for me to play for Celtic and then to go and play for Rangers.
So you're branded.
Absolutely.
Why do you think that Sottsass attracts so many designers from all over the world like yourself?
I think because he offers the idea that design is not simply design, by and large, for most designers, most design students, ends up being more or less a means of making money, because the work that you do is so boring, it's so staid. And Sottsass has always, since the 1950s, represented the idea of the designer who pursues a course that he wants to do, and I'm sure by virtue of his talent has been able to sustain himself and can now sustain a large studio by doing exactly what he wants to do. And luckily enough, there is enough people willing to pay for what he wants to do.
Have you any idea how your fellow Italian designers view your work? I mean, do they see it as being particularly Scottish?
I think the last Scottish designer was Macintosh, and even then, his work was more understood and more related to in Italy, in Turin, than it was in Scotland. But Macintosh's vocabulary was built up from what he inherited from what was going on in Scottish architecture for quite a long time. And that stopped, that process of design, of isolated design, stopped a long, long time ago, I think. And the work that I do is as Scottish as an American designer in California or an Australian designer in Sydney.
What pieces have you got in this year's Memphis show?
Well, the biggest piece was the large bar. I mean, I've designed a display cabinet and then people can decide how they want to use that, but that's a bar. And then I've done the 2 carpets, this fireside rugs. Also a flower vase and a fruit bowl for pears and bananas in ceramic, and also a small table lamp for working at the desk or whatever. This furniture is perceived as furniture at the extreme. And I think that is a quality that people maybe from an industrial background like Glasgow would do. If they choose to do something, then they really want to do it and they'll go out of their way to do it to the most extreme to give them self-satisfaction, to make it more interesting for them. And I think that is inherited from our past, because Glasgow is not a gentle, quiet, tranquil city. It's a city with a lot of energy. And I mean, I'm sure like this furniture could almost fit into some fish and chip shop in Glasgow quite well, with chrome and the glass. And I mean, I don't think maybe if you were to transport this to Glasgow, then it wouldn't be so ridiculous after all.
What are we doing here in Liverpool? Maybe we're here to talk about the stylistic and spiritual similarities between Liverpool and Glasgow, to compare the explosion in popular culture that happened here in the early 60s to the current Glasgow style. But we're not. We're here to talk about barbers. The Irvine and Rusk Roadshow hits Liverpool. A spectacular extravaganza full of glamorous models, music and dancing that travels the world, showcasing the hairdressing talents of Irvine and Rita Rusk. It's a trade show like no other, designed to inspire and stimulate. These ideas have motivated hairdressers worldwide. A French magazine has recently described Irvine Rusk as the best hairdresser in the world.
There isn't such a thing as the best hairdresser in the world. Right, I mean, there are certain people who are good at certain things. But I think what we do have as a company is a versatility, which is probably very, very high. In other words, there's nothing that we don't do. You know, some people just cut hair beautifully, other people dress hair beautifully. But we actually do everything from the very, very sharp haircuts to avant-garde.
Could you tell us how you got started in the business?
I really honestly don't know. I just had a feeling when I was at school that I would quite like to be a hairdresser. And I used to cut my friends' hair when we were at school. You know, Saturday afternoon, I'd get all the guys round to the house and I used to try and cut side locks in everybody's hair. And of course, we're all too young to have side locks, so I had everybody going around in our area with hair shaved up to there to create side locks. And I don't know, I just had this thing about being a hairdresser, and much to the great disappointment of my parents. My father was a professional man and he just thought being a hairdresser has just got to be the end of the world. And he did everything in his power to talk me out of it, got the headmaster at the school to talk me out of it. My father was in the surveying business and this salon came up in Hamilton, which he was actually asked to negotiate for the people who owned. Someone else wanted to buy it and they said, why don't you have a look at it? And Rita and I thought, oh God, no, the sticks, that would be really dreadful. But we looked at the place and we liked it very, very much, and before we knew where we were, we had bought it, and that was our first salon. The salons really have meant everything, because they've given us the strong financial base that we've been able to work from. And if you lose that link with the salons and the client in the chair, you've really lost everything. Because if you are trying to teach people techniques which are totally unrelatable to something they can actually take back, then it's really a waste of time. And even in the avant-garde work that you saw in the show, it has some bearing in a fashion sense. That the looks tend to be larger than life and very, very big and very, very extravagant and very exaggerated. But there is a basis in the fashion shape. For instance, Our latest look is called the Liberated Bob, which means we put a strong perimeter line in a haircut somewhere, and then we build on that. It's not like a 60s bob where the hair was pulled down, cut, and then everything was pulled down to that. We're actually putting the strong perimeter in the bottom, and then we're working with the sort of all the techniques that we've learned in the last few years of getting hair and texture into hair and volume and making it spiky. So therefore the show heads are an extension of that feeling.
Actually, we've been quite fortunate sometimes, maybe have people who are in like the pop industry and so on, and I mean, they really do want something a bit different, and it's a wonderful thing. If they just come in and ask for it, it's terrific to be able to do it on a client, you know, where normally you would do it out with working hours and work for it. Yes, it's very tempting to do it even when they don't want it, but we have to, you know, hold back a bit. Basically, it's a case of working all the time and just, I mean, really a lot of today's fashion, hair and everything, comes from the streets. A lot of things you see, just having an awareness really of just picking up something that you feel is going to be like a change in fashion, a change in look. It's amazing how you can look at even a photograph or just a person walking down the street and just take an idea from them, just see their hair. And although even at that point you're not terribly aware that you're picking up on that, and then later you do something, you think, gosh, I remember that came from maybe just walking down Buchanan Street or whatever and seeing someone just doing something a little bit different to their hair. You take it and sort of streamline it, you know. So a lot of it comes from that kind of thing.
We did a show in London in '76, which was very, very successful. But we'd never done a show before. Neither of us had ever stood on a stage or held a microphone or anything. It was a really, really terrifying experience. But we worked very, very hard on it, and we produced some really, really unusual colour techniques. There was one particular stencil technique which nobody had ever done before, and we worked on it for weeks and weeks on end. And when that show was finished, somebody instantly asked us to do a show in Switzerland. So we went to Switzerland and did the show with Sassoons and all these people, all the big names that had been travelling around doing shows for 20 years. And they were, Rita and I hadn't a clue what the hell we were doing there. And we did that, and it was very successful. And then somebody asked us to do something else, and the whole thing really snowballed from there. But what we ended up doing, really, it was a sort of like, it was a total thing in reverse. We built a business and then we built a reputation, but the reputation we built was outside Scotland before we were actually known at home. It tends to be a combined effort, really, because there are a few of us in the company, Rita, myself, Barry, one or two others who are involved all the time. So we're talking about things, and because we're constantly going from one thing to another, like 2 weeks ago we were making a new series of video films, the week before that we were in Italy, the week before that we were in Paris, we were doing a couple of things in London. So we're constantly talking about things and working on things, and you know, something maybe inspires us and we just sort of like, but we tend, it's this really strange thing, we get the same feeling at the same time and we just go straight into a direction. In Britain we don't realise how lucky we are, and it's only with the amount of travelling that we've done in the last few years, we've been all around the world doing this job, we actually realise how lucky we are, is that we want to do something new and get a new creative feeling, and you've got a new haircut that you want to, then the clients are so receptive to let you try it. Whereas in other countries, particularly France and Italy, I mean, the people, their hair is really only an accessory to their fashion. And they can change their fashion look 2-3 times in a season, but the hair stays exactly the same, and they're very, very demanding of their hairdressers. I mean, really, if you're a hairdresser there, you are only there to supply what's been asked for. Whereas in Britain, women, sort of, British women are quite eccentric, both in their fashion and their feeling for their hair. And if a British woman's hair is looking good, she can buy an old pair of shoes or something else. If her hair's looking good, that's really important to her, which is actually great for us. We don't realise how fortunate we are. But I think really that one of the Scottish things is that there's this preoccupation with age, which I think is really, really wrong. I think we, as Scots, we feel it's stronger than anybody else. You know, once people get to 25, they start thinking it's time to put the shutters up. You know, like, life is now finished. And I really think that's dreadful. I mean, it's so wrong. I mean, I know when I get to 25, I'm not going to feel like that. So, I just think it's crazy. And, you know, they tend to think of it, you know, things that shouldn't really concern them as much as I think they sometimes should. Actually, don't make the most of themselves. They've got an awful lot to offer people, you know, and they sort of like tend to shy away from it. Glasgow's quite an aggressive city. It's a bold, robust city, so the interior of the salon has got that kind of feel to it. It matches the city. I'm going to cut your hair longer at the front in here, so that when you dry your hair, it's longer here, and then it's running back, so by the time you get to the length of the crown, it's actually shorter.
When is your actual thing? When are you doing the singing part? On the 18th of June, did you say?
The because this will help this hair to stand up and fall over your forehead, which will really look good when it's dry.
When you're on stage and you're doing something, it's so important to feel good, isn't it?
And having a nice small face like you have, I think it'll work really, really nicely because you've got all the volume here.
That's right, yeah. Although it's classic and it's nice, it does tend to restrict you in what you wear and so on. Whereas with this, you've got so much movement and things you can do.
Being from Glasgow, it took us a lot longer to be established and be accepted. Because in the first couple of years, each time we did something, people thought it was a fluke. It's a one-hit record, and that's it. But I think that Glasgow determination, Rita and I have definitely got it. That strong Scottish determination, right, we're there, and we're going to do it, and we just keep on doing it and doing it.